Right, and that yeah, exactly. I completely agree. In the Shadow of the Moon. What a weird name for a title too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like very poetic kind of. Sounds like something like a French author would write, and it's like a loose translation of it. In the Shadow de Luna. That's not what it would be, but
yeah.
Sorry to all of our French listeners.
Spoilers for the whole movie In the Shadow of the Moon on Netflix ahead. But yeah, the title feels like, especially for that being the title, In the Shadow of the Moon,
Right.
the moon felt pretty irrelevant.
Unimportant, yeah, except for the and they did mention a few times, like, you know, every 9 years the blood moon or super moon or whatever it was. I think they said blood moon.
But that feels like it was just their only way. They were like, we need, like, for the story, we want this chick to come back like every certain amount of years.
Right.
And they needed some excuse to be like, well, why can she only come back every 10 years or so? And
right.
then,
and you have to find a phenomenon that would make
exactly.
that happen within 4 times of this this 60-year-old's presumably like lifespan. So they would make a lot of sense.
Other than that aspect, just the 9-year cycle, it feels like they could have left the moon part out and it would have been the same movie.
Yeah, the title of the movie, honestly, is don't seek for any kind of depth behind, like, other than
just in the moon part in particular.
Of the moon.
I do feel like there's some depth scattered throughout this movie.
Well, I'm talking about the title.
But
though.
as far as the moon thing, it's
no, the movie has. Well, I mean, and you know, again, we've already said spoilers, but the theme to me is like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, doesn't matter what you may have done in the past. Even if someone was to go back from the future to alter that, like, you're still in the same. Like, she even told him, she's like, if you keep coming for me, I know how it ends. Like,
well, and that's
one of my
why,
favorite lines.
I mean, I guess kind of
it's gonna
jump ahead a bit here, but I actually wondered.
She's also jumped in the future.
When she
to the
said that,
past.
though, like what's the point? This was my thought process. Like, what is the point? Like, can she even really encourage him to change his actions? Because wouldn't that change? Like, how can she sit there going like, you need to stop chasing me, when she knows him chasing her is what led to this future?
Yeah.
Like, if he stopped chasing, but then I
her
thought, well, I guess like that's where time travel just falls apart as any story.
Right. Even Avengers Endgame had that, you know, earlier this year.
Because it's like she always went back and told him to stop chasing her, and that still led to the future. So
was old Cap always there, just like allowing that shit to go down?
Endgame,
you know, yeah. But yeah, what was her name? Raya, very close to my name. But yeah, honestly, and I'll be honest, not my favorite character. Very underdeveloped. The granddaughter.
Yeah.
I mean, but she wasn't meant to be. I mean, she was meant as kind of a MacGuffin that later. It kind of sucks when you're played out as a MacGuffin, like you're this pawn in a chess piece game, or in this chess game that you don't know exactly what it's being played at, and then until the very ends when they have that final like confrontation on the beach where she's like, look dude, like this is it, like you have to understand I'm doing this for, you know, X to Y, you know,
a weird thing I thought about too during that scene, like for her that's her first encounter with him.
Yes. Yeah.
And every encounter after that, she calls him Thomas or Tom.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like she knew that she didn't tell him. It's like she told him he was her granddad on the beach, saw that was the first time he was hearing it, and then was like, well, I guess I can't call him granddad like anytime more in the past because it'll fuck up
further.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought that was a really cool, like, normally time travel, you go from past to future, but in this it made more sense. She had to go step by step backwards. Her final destination is when she died in 88, I believe. When, like, that was like everything else she had experienced in reverse from the movie. Like, the first time in her minds chronologically in the movie is that last meeting at the beach. And everything else after that, she's already experienced that.
Yeah.
And shit. That's why she's like, I'm sorry about your partner.
That's why it's a really cool idea. Like, I imagine when writing it, like, the writer almost had to sit down and, like, specifically think about her train of time, and then specifically think about his because otherwise it would get so confusing.
Until
like, this happened for him, hasn't happened. Like, it's just a weird thing to hold in your head.
Well, it's a great idea because, I mean, until you know that she's the granddaughter of him. Like you think she's the antagonist, you know? So it's like protagonist is going from point A, antagonist is at point D, and like they're really just what they're doing
passing
is
or whatever.
passing each other,
Yeah,
and that's a really cool
He has
idea.
the scene where I was like, oh my god, enough with the cheesy visuals, but he grabs like the salt
The
and pepper
salt, yeah.
shaker. It's like they pass. I
Right.
was like, did you really need a visualization for that concept?
I mean, I honestly, that's crazy because I just did that not even thinking of that scene. But I mean, that's like I just did it with
I
my
guess it's
fingers.
just
for the people
instinctual.
who can't
It's
see,
when
but
you
it's
grab
like,
objects, though, it feels like a whole nother level versus
Yeah.
just hand gestures.
Well, and
like,
it's just Michael
all right,
C.
you're
Hall.
you're
in
the
that
salt
moment.
you're the salt shaker. I'm the pepper shaker. Like it just feels dumbed down. But,
Well, and it caused Michael C. Hall to be like, dude, you're just I've
and
lost all.
We're jumping around all over the place, but a similar thing when the physicist guy,
yeah,
I think his name's
Naveen.
Naveen. Yeah, he in his first encounter with the main character, the cops, he like grabs his keychain.
Oh.
Like, because they're walking and he's like trying to get the point across, and he's like, it builds a bridge, and he like. And I was just sitting there going like, whoa, dude, you do not
yeah.
like
It's
in
like,
general
you'd
in a
get
social
shot.
situation, you don't
Yeah.
just grab a dude's shit. And this is
Let
a
alone
cop.
a cop
Like,
in a cop
Jesus,
station.
Like, dude, you don't like. Oh my god. And again, it was for something that, like, I don't feel like that physical thing helped
that
his
explanation,
talk.
right,
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
it creates a bridge. Like,
Well,
did you really need a chain
I
in your
will
hand to
argue,
do that?
Theoretically, he said you have until I get to the
Door.
to
Oh,
the door.
so he was slowing him
maybe
down.
like that would have maybe stopped him.
That is
That's
a good
maybe
defense.
thinking too much
I
into
didn't.
it.
No, I didn't
but,
think about that. That's a good.
Like
That's a good
that's
point.
That's something like you'd have to be Sherlock and be like, oh, this guy's gonna stop and get defensive.
So, I saw this movie first, and then I recommended it to you.
Yeah, good recommendation.
And you said you saw the first scene, and we're like, ugh, this is gonna be
Yeah.
a stupid, kind of cheesy movie. Those weren't your exact words, but
I mean, my sentiment almost exactly, I would say.
because it starts
came
out
off as,
with
like,
this
weird
apocalyptic.
Hunger Games.
You don't know
type
what's going
setting.
on.
Yeah, and you see the flag.
And I'll say too, it struck me a couple times. I was like, it's cool that this is in Philadelphia, but I feel like most movies would have done New York or L.A. Like,
At first, I was like, "Did Shyamalan write this?" Like, and then I saw the Indian scientist. I was like, "Oh man, I guarantee you, M. Night Shyamalan wrote this."
I wonder if it was filmed in Philadelphia. I'd have to check that, but I imagine it was tax purposes. If that's if it was filmed there,
I
it's
could
got to
see
be
that.
tax reasons that
Yeah,
they
it could
did it there.
It wouldn't have mattered. It would have been more a little potent in New York or even.
It's always
Los
New
Angeles,
York when people
yeah.
do that. Yeah. So, but and I will say that scene just sort of it didn't have a lot of impact on me when I first saw it too. It's just like okay, like it. I don't think I disliked it like
it
you
set
did
a
per se,
theme.
but yeah, it kind of.
Like, to me, I was like, "Oh,
And
they're gonna go for
the
like
flag
a Civil
falls
War."
with the
Right.
5 stars on it, and that did have me.
Yeah.
I won't say intrigued, but I was like, "What?
I was
5
out.
stars?"
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I wasn't ready to close out, but like, 5 stars is
Yeah.
bullshit.
But I do love the scene right after that. It jumps to the piano concert guy, and then it just like with his piano concert playing, as
Yeah,
far
it's
as the
concerto,
audio, it
yeah.
cuts to these different people dying, with the
Including himself.
nosebleed, including him. That's an awesome scene.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much a sucker for anything with like a classical, like piano song to a bunch of violence. Like I'm.
It was shot well too. I mean,
Yeah.
it looked good and it was very decent.
There were a bunch of scenes scattered throughout this whole movie that were shot really well and done really well with good music choices. It wasn't like every scene, but like just here and there it was like, oh, that's an awesome scene.
Oh yeah. I think the scene with, in the beginning, after the 5-star flag falling down, the scene with the bus crash. I just think that, again, to
Yeah,
me,
that
that was a
was-
little like it was interesting, but it dragged on a little too much. Like just. I don't know, like it would have been potent enough if
I
you
liked it
just
'cause
see
of
him
the-
like
the whole
bleeding and
piano
then
thing.
turning.
It-
But then it just kept showing like it was like a Super 8 train wreck. Like I love Super 8, one of my favorite movies. But I will say that train wreck scene, like, just went on for like 2 minutes, way too long. Like
The bus crash, you mean?
oh, oh yeah, bus, yeah, not a train, yeah. When the bus, crashed into the 18-wheeler and all of that.
Again, I just liked it because it had this whole like epic piano concerto thing going on in the background, and I don't know, I always liked that kind of. It reminded me of there's this scene in The Lobster, which is one of my favorite movies, with where they start hunting the loners in the woods, and this like just really like beautiful, slow like French song starts playing. It's like very old school sounding, and I just love the contrast between this like slow, beautiful, classic song to this weird kind of disturbing scene going on.
Yeah,
I always love that stuff.
I mean, trying to shoot down Rachel Weisz, like that's not fun.
Yeah.
That was a good movie. I need to rewatch that.
But this whole movie had a lot of TV show actors too. We were commenting
I mean,
you've got two people from Fargo season 2. You got
Rachel
Bokeem
Keller.
Woodbine and Rachel Keller. Which
Mas Bonita.
Bokeem, I love that guy.
Yeah, well, he's sexy in his own way too, but
I don't know if that's how you say his name, but
oh yeah, man.
I assume.
Bokeem, yeah,
But I love that guy. He's so good.
Call him BW. No, no, he's great. Anything he's in. I mean, even the Spider-Man movie. I mean, I'm excited. After Fargo season 2, he literally was. Oh, that's a great line that he says actually right there. Like when he's running. Yeah, the partnership between the
He's
two
like,
is great.
Cut back to a pack a day.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, Bokeem.
Yeah.
How many are you smoking right now? Like,
Yeah, right. And he was, that was very interesting because I don't think you really saw him smoking all that much.
No, you really didn't.
Yeah, he was great.
Also, obviously,
Boyd.
Michael C. Hall.
Oh God, Dexter, man.
Like,
and
oh my God.
6 Feet Under.
I think I commented at one point, like I wrote down just so I'd remember, like he turned what could have been a very generic kind of police chief type character into, like, he was really interesting every time he was on screen to me. Like he always tackled the scenes in a very interesting way that it just turned him elevated the character. Like the scene where the baby, the first daughter is born near the beginning,
right? And then
his sister dies because it's sister, brother-in-law thing. But like the scene where the sister dies, like he played that so well. It wasn't even about him. It was more about the main character's, Locke's focus. But it was just the way he was like excited to see the baby, but then devastated by the death. It was. That scene is really well done.
He like put his arm over. He was like, he just like stared at her with like such awe and enjoyment. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, I teared up during that scene.
Oh yeah, I like, and then I was like,
well done scene.
And I, as a viewer, already had known that basically like the wife was gonna die. Then so I was like, when is that gonna happen? And right after, it's like you see the doctor come in, and it's all in, it's muted. You have the orchestral music and. He just kind of like looks to the side and looks upset and walks away. And then Michael C. Hall is just like breaking down.
See, I guess all I remembered from the trailer basically was that one line where she's like, "Is this where it happened?" Because I was like, "Oh, that's such a good." line.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't even remember that the wife was gonna die. Like, I didn't think about any of that stuff. So it all kind of.
Well, when she said, "I'm sorry about your partner," for me, I was like, "What? Like what partner?"
Oh, I was straight up. That sent me on like a tangent in my head for like the next 10 minutes of the movie where I was like, is she talking about breaking his leg? Is he not going to be a cop anymore?
Is
he
going to die from
complications?
But technically, like
she was talking about
like
9
right
years
after
later.
that, right? What? And I wonder how, like, did she experience the 9-year gap, or was that like a very just continuous?
I think, and I'm pretty sure about this, that it was like
she had
snap.
To,
like I don't know how long
not
for her.
Snap, but
like
she
waking
had to go,
up after
she
a
went
night's
to go
sleep.
kill those people. Went back 9 years ago.
Yeah, it didn't feel like 9 years for her. It felt like a night of sleeping or something, like just where you wake up and it's like, oh, it's the next day now. Like
that to me is just super interesting.
Because that's why her hand was still injured and
had
just all
his
that.
Bullet. That was interesting.
Which I did think, and maybe I just was confused, but at one point, I think they say early on, like, there's a bullet from your service revolver.
Yeah. He's like, "Can I see your revolver?"
But by the time he shoots her, like, I don't think he's been a cop for a number of years.
No, it's the same gun, though. I made sure to watch
But don't you have to turn, like, if it's a service revolver, do you get to keep that? I guess that just depends on the police. If you turn in your
badge and your gun.
Yeah, that's usually the stereotype, right?
Gracefully. But if you I don't know, I took it as maybe he like left and like went AWOL or something. Maybe didn't turn in his badge or gun, and that could be like what all that's about. That's the only theory I would have as far as that. But yeah, normally you would, when you retire as a cop, you give me your badge and gun.
Another thing I thought about, just in terms of the time travel, like, did she, like, by the time she falls in front of the train, like, has she completed her mission? You know what I'm saying?
Those
Like,
were the cook. Those were the first people that were sent that.
how do you
and
know?
again, well, because it was the furthest in time.
Yeah, but
And she killed that guy. She killed the guy riding. You remember it goes back to him riding?
yeah, but was that in '88 that she did that? It didn't really specify.
It didn't specify, no. But I always took it as that because he was typing that manifesto.
There's just never anything
Why would that manifesto
that I
exist?
gathered that said that, like, oh, these are the last people she's got to kill.
Yeah.
Like, she was obviously still trying to escape from him. Like, it seemed like she was still trying to accomplish shit.
And one of my problems about this movie, why I don't, like, again, I would give it, well, I guess I haven't said it here, but I would give it about a B plus. There are some, like, serious story holes, like, as far as time travel, like you mentioned earlier. I mean, there's always going to be that.
Well, because it's an impossible concept.
And I even mentioned it last night, like, why did she have to go back? If it's a tidal wave effect or, like a ripple effect, and why not just kill the pebble instead of killing the ripples? Like, why did she have to go back 9 years? Why did she have to start
so
the killing?
I thought about that because you had mentioned that. And so I was kind of like thinking about it, and the way they say it is like they kind of describe, like, you could kill the person, but, like, what about the people who inspired the idea for that person? Like, they kind of make a case for like
because
how far
they were influenced by it.
No, but they're even saying, like, let's say you're going to go back and kill Hitler.
Right.
Like, and basically he presents it,
To destroy
if this guy were
Hitler's
Hitler,
ideas.
to put it into Hitler, be like, you could kill Hitler, all the Nazi leaders and everything, but would that be enough? What about the people who gave Hitler his ideas, like his parents, his siblings, his friends? So then he's like, so you got to kill those people too. And that is where, honestly, my biggest...
But it said in the 88 is when the guys set out the manifesto, though, right?
Well, I think the manifesto...
That was sent through the books. It was that paper that he was
I think
typing.
that was an ongoing movement. There wasn't like
Oh,
a
okay.
singular...
I thought
He
there
sent
was
out
a
the
singular
manifesto
person.
time.
It was the guy with his
No, there was a
girlfriend.
singular person, but there
Right.
wasn't a single time where he's been sending out manifestos for 20 years or whatever it was before he did the terrorist attack. Like, he's building up
kill him
his
in the crib.
following. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But their point is kill him in the crib, but the people who made him, like, could just make, like, whoever influenced him to have those ideas could just influence another person to have those ideas now. Which,
But they
I'm
didn't
just saying that's
explore
their
that
argument.
because they would have gone back and killed. They would have gone back further in time.
They would have. They didn't.
Right.
I
And then they would
agree
have
that
had
it falls
to kill
apart,
the parents,
but that was
kill
their
the parents'
argument.
friends, and all that shit. Like,
Well, it's also a slippery, just in terms of morality. Like, what kind of an argument? Like, that's
you
where
have
I
to
would
go to the beginning.
That's
of
where I
the
was like,
plotline.
this is some like 1984. No, not 1980, but this is like some weird thought crime type shit. Because it's like, well, we got to kill these people before. Like, even the people who led to the bad ideas indirect, and it's like,
Right.
Jesus, like, that is a dark, like, usually that'd be the bad guy
Right.
in a movie, the one going back and being like, well, I'm gonna kill these innocent people because they gave this guy these ideas. And it's like, whoa, that's a pretty
slippery slope.
yeah, like, it's,
Oh yeah, no, it's I mean, didn't they even made and
as a whole theme though, this movie, there's one thing I appreciated about it was it took these really weird, ambiguous stances towards a lot of moral issues. Like, it never felt like it was delivering a moral, like, pandering message to me. It always felt like it was just sort of presenting a situation and just observing the moral implications rather than trying to
it wasn't
deliver a
force-fed.
message.
Yeah,
Because, like, the whole, like I just was saying, that's like a bad, like, that's like an evil thing to do, to go back and murder these people in a way.
Right.
Even if they did do something bad, it's like you're killing them before they ever do it. It's a very weird.
right. Could
But
you
it,
do
but
something
it never
else
comments.
besides
It never
kill them?
says that
you know?
she's good for doing that
No,
or she's bad. It just
But
sort of
she says-
presents it as is.
as is, like, I'm going to prevent this from happening.
Yeah.
Whether it's for
The movie doesn't try to tell you if that's right or wrong, I guess is what I'm saying. It
and
leaves
she
that
is
open to you
played
to decide.
as an antagonist for, I would say, 3/4 of the movie, or even more so. You know, like that. But yeah, very interesting.
Well, and,
like just
and another weird theme that it kind of addressed, but it also didn't tell you what to think, was it kind of touched on racial overtones and police like brutality stuff. With there were like riots about him being a white officer who killed the black unarmed perpetrator, which turns out to be his granddaughter. So it was just this really weird mix of like it addressed that there was these racial tensions, but it never, like, there were comments about how the protesters were dangerous. Even like it didn't just say that was 100% right, but it didn't say it was wrong.
That grows a paradox, because if it were those attacks that created the tension, if it were him going in, like, first of all, the granddaughter should have known from the future that this was going to be, like, she had to have known.
She'd be able to see that she
right, and then that like
was in the papers,
right, and so that attack that he made on his granddaughter, the white man against the black granddaughter, caused a lot of the tensions. Not all the tensions. Tensions have always been there, always will be.
You could definitely,
but she basically going back into the past,
in a way, it's
like caused
fulfilling
it.
that. Yeah,
like it's like, again, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Which
like,
is just the time travel issue again, I think. But it, yeah,
because otherwise
time
that
just never adds
like
up. And I did
the second like riot was because they were like, oh, here's another one like dressed like her, like.
I did think though too, like 9 years later, would she really still be on the front page and riots, even if it's the anniversary? 9 years later,
9-year anniversary. Why wouldn't that be the 10-year anniversary? I thought that was kind of cheesy. I was like, okay, you're kind of stretching with the like it's been the 9-year anniversary.
Yeah, but I thought about that too. I was like, maybe if it was the 10-year, it'd be front page news. But
Right,
they're not
right,
gonna do
right,
that for
right.
9.
But the audience knows the 9-year lunar thing kind of slightly. Like if you're smart, you pick up on that. But then it's like the world doesn't know that.
The
so
idea
why would
though
you
was that
advertise
I think
9-year anniversary.
what they were presenting it as was probably every single year these riots have happened since then. But I was like, that just doesn't.
Right.
I can't think
never seen a copycat
I can't think of
killer like that?
any incidents in the real world where, like, for 9 years, every anniversary, people were out there with large protests, front page news. Like, that's just, like, it wasn't that big of a
couldn't have been
thing.
Not for like 4 or 5 people dying in that 1 year, you know.
Well, and it was, the protests were all over one person dying. The girl.
Yeah, right, exactly. The mystery lady.
And he even said at one point, like, this is where I was like, wow, that's a kind of in a way, a ballsy thing to put into your movie in today's climate. Was Locke at one point tells his 9-year-old daughter, he's like, well, some people aren't happy unless they're mad, and talking about the protesters. And I was like, damn, like, some true words. But I feel like this movie could get some criticism for that, because most people these days, it's like, I don't know, anger feels justified for a lot unjustified. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's part of grieving and understanding of situations.
It's not unjustified, but that's why, like, the whole movie just felt like it wasn't taking a side, which I thought was really cool. Like, I at least respected that.
And I think that's kind of why it has that mixed receptions, because I feel like certain people were hoping it would have a certain side instead of being like ambiguous, I guess, as far as like, oh, you know, again, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, it really, yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing. Like, I wouldn't say it's a tight story, but the way that it's constructed was very well done.
Well, I thought the pacing was great.
Yeah.
There was never a moment where I was like, like, this is dragging. Like, it constantly, I felt like beats were hitting at all the right moments. That's what I got anyway. It's just,
I went into this not knowing that there was going to be a 9-year gap. When it took about 30 minutes for the first 9-year gap, and I was just so comfortable with what I was seeing, where I was like, oh, they're going to do a 9-year gap.
It does jump back like 30 years in the first 30 seconds, though.
Well, yeah, but you don't know. Like, it could start out in 1988, and you could see how that could snowball into it, like how that could be an effect. I mean, you don't know that it's going to jump
all these years
continuously. Mm-hmm. That, I mean, I wouldn't say that that's explicit, but it to me, I was just like, oh, this is the kind of movie it's going to be. It's going back 9 years. And then the second phase, when they meet the Indian doctor, and he was like, it's every 9 years. I was like, oh shit, that was the time jump that we just saw. It's like, I thought we were going to see another one.
And I did like, it never felt slow when they jumped. Like every transition had a really interesting opening for the next 9 years to me.
Yeah.
Like, and it was just cool to see the main character's process too, because he went from like, the first one, I think it opens up on him and his wife in bed, and he's like making breakfast. It's kind of a happy time. 9 years later, he's like, from what I gathered, he was like crying in his room while his daughter was making him breakfast
and shit.
Yeah,
making pancakes.
9 years after that,
Wearing
he's like starting to become obsessed, and then he just gets more and more obsessed, and then he's like, it cuts to 9 years later at one point, and the first scene is him digging up a fucking grave. I was like, oh my god, like that's.
I'm not sure if you noticed, but like there's huge references to the first basketball game that Bokeem and that he walks in to his partner's car, like while he's listening. He's like, you got a gambling problem. He turns it off. It's like, no, I'm gonna turn it back on so he can, like, he wants to know the ending of it, but it's a Knicks game. 9 years later, when she's making pancakes, the daughter, she's wearing a Knicks jersey, and then 9 years after that, they're listening to another Knicks game. And they go back and forth with that, like the
interesting.
winning. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's a little Easter egg. I thought it was kind of cool.
The scene where Bokeem dies. What's his character's name? Maddox. His partner.
Maddox. Because that's what she calls the little her little stuffed animal. I like it.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, she's like, well, this is Maddox, though. He's like in a little police uniform, too. I thought that was cute.
The scene where he dies is really good.
Yeah.
Before he dies. I love the whole hostage conversation while they're in the airport. Mm-hmm. I like that scene a lot. Just the trying to subtly communicate and the written messages. And it was a little too obvious, which is why she caught on and like had the gun on him. And
that's I thought it was clever in the moment, but then I was like, man, if I like was in like on the left, like watching this shit, I'd be like, oh, this cop's trying to communicate with him. Like, I would wholeheartedly be like, all right, no, fuck this, we gotta end this right now.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
like,
she does.
Wish it would, yeah, right. No, exactly. Like, it just wasn't played. Like, as much as I thought it was clever in the moment, I was like, oh, dude, you're just dragging this out. Like right then and there, you should be like, all right, get down and like just check your six. Like, otherwise you're allowing someone to maybe sneak up on you. Like, it just didn't seem very strategic.
Yeah, but she was sneaking up on them.
Right.
You're saying the cops should have reacted quicker?
Yeah, I thought it was clever when he was like, is someone watching? Scratch your head. And then he was like,
well, he had to know where
direction.
Well, yeah.
But I would have just said fucking duck and like, I don't know.
And just like spun around the whole room. Like, where are you? And then as soon as your back is turned, she can shoot you.
I mean,
dude, you'd die.
Maybe.
Sorry, but
he would have died if that wasn't his granddaughter. He would have gotten shot.
Yeah, but he was even more quickly if he had
was making it a little too obvious.
But if you don't know where she is and there's 100 places she could be hiding and standing right there, like, you might turn to the right and she's on the left and she kills you immediately. Like, that's not a good move either.
Maybe.
By any means. Like,
I would take that chance because there's a chance you're gonna die anyways after you know
but
that
I feel like
she's in
those
there,
are much lower chances of living.
Yeah,
doing that
possibly
versus the chance that she might not have caught on still what you're doing, and then you can know where to look.
Maybe she was too clever and like knew just because that was her grandpa. Like, it's like, this is like, it's full of shit. Or maybe even let on the information. Like, it's like, hey, if you're in the airport, by the way, I'm writing to this guy. Like, because I assume, and that's another good question. So, in my mind, is everything erased after she fixes everything? Like, that scene where he's holding the baby, is he about to train her? Or is it like him coming to that realization and her fixing everything that he won't have to? Like, he won't, like, that training will never have to happen.
I don't know.
And then they can continue on.
Mm-hmm. But I do think, just sticking to that scene where Maddox does die, like, I think the biggest complaint I don't know. I don't agree with your with your first criticism. Like, I think that would
Oh
be
no, I think
way
he
less
should've
clever
fucking
for him to
ducked.
have just immediately drawn his gun and started spinning
I
in
would've just
circles,
ducked.
going, "Where are you?"
Oh, I would have
But-
ducked. I would have hidden and then wait for the first shot and just be like, "Where's it come from?" Trajectory.
Yeah, but for Hall, he knows she's standing 10 feet to his left with a gun on this hostage's head.
Oh,
for
true.
him to be like, quick, duck. Like, no, that
Yeah.
hostage is going to die if he does that. Like,
Yeah.
you got to think like a cop. You're trying to protect the life
Yeah.
of this hostage. You're trying to protect yourself,
Yeah.
Like,
You got to
it's-
protect your partner.
which he didn't even know was inside, really. I guess he called
He
him.
called
but,
him. Yeah.
but Maddox was stupid. He should have posted up behind like one of those
plane.
planes
Yeah.
and been like, freeze. But instead, he's like, and honestly, this was a complaint throughout the whole movie. Everyone with a gun in this movie just decides to get way too close to the person they're aiming the gun at.
Oh yeah.
He's like sitting there walking up till he's 10 feet away. It's freeze, bitch. And she immediately, like, he sees the shotgun in her hand.
Right.
Like, he should have just shot. Like, you don't,
I would.
I mean, you can't as a cop, I guess, but like, you can't just, like, I don't know. That's just way too risky without being behind cover or anything. But earlier too, when Maddox is first confronting the granddaughter in '88, he's like walking up to her behind the pillar with a gun, and like he doesn't leave any distance between him and the pillar.
Right.
He literally like has his gun out and is like walking up to like within a foot of her. Like, you got to keep enough distance that they can't grab your gun, and that nobody did. And that kept bothering me. But
I did like the scene where she broke his leg, and then 9 years later, like he's just
limping.
limping. Yeah, that was kind of cool. Made sense.
You commented to me that you didn't think it was realistic that he would survive the fall from the airplane.
Yeah, wholeheartedly.
So I rewatched that scene. I don't know. It's not.
That plane has to be going more than 160 miles per hour.
What? No.
No?
Why?
Unless it's when again it crashes. So
Right after that.
right after. So maybe not.
Like, a plane could planes can stop in midair for a second, even. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
yeah,
Like, they could
when
be
you
moving
stall
very
it.
slowly.
Yeah, but that's not ideal. You would have to fix that
Oh, yeah.
in a very
Or
professional way.
Land/crash, which
Or
is what she
crash.
does immediately,
Right.
though.
Yeah.
So she could have been going 5 miles per hour. And the height was really not much higher than like
So
a
my
high dive.
question to that is, does she die in that scenario?
I was wondering that too.
Like,
I didn't
because
fully. I guess she somehow. Maybe she had a
She only
parachute.
died once.
Maybe she had. Yeah. Oh yeah. She doesn't die.
Again, until the beginning / ends.
I guess. Yeah. I should say. She doesn't die in that
The
crash.
plane
But I don't know
crashes.
how she
Right, would have.
survives that.
And she would have the parachute and he wouldn't. Why not just...
Well, she pushes him over the water.
Right. But why not just both jump out of the water? Be a little more prepared than him. Like, I guess because you'd be close to him.
Yeah. He could capture her.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems that I could.
It's not fully explained.
What?
Oh, but just what, like, that whole scenario. Like, again, with, like, did she have a parachute? She wasn't wearing one.
It's that part that isn't fully.
I mean, indeed, he was able to swim with, I assume, some heavy
Maybe-
injuries.
I don't
There's-
remember how bad the crash looked. Was the plane intact? Maybe she just
Slightly.
landed really, like, crash landed and was fine. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it was intact minus, like, I think one wing or two, but I still don't. I mean, even if you were to drop, how low do you think the plane was? Just out of curiosity. If you had to
I mean,
guess.
I'm not going to give a number of feet.
50 feet.
But
50
not too
feet
much
into the
higher
water
than
is
some of
hit,
the
like,
cliff
hitting
dives I've seen people do on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, but those are divers who are prepared. He
Oh, yeah,
He
but-
was thrown
oh, for
in,
sure.
and it was a cloudy, dark
But that
night,
doesn't mean
like,
death just because you're not
Yeah.
prepared. It means
yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. 50 feet of a drop into water would be like hitting.
More than 50 feet. I think it was more than 50 feet.
Again, will stick with my stance that I think he should be dead wholeheartedly. I don't think there's any, like,
I think
I
there's a
would
good
love-
chance
I
he
would
would have
love a-
drowned, but I
a
don't think the impact would
Mythbusters.
kill him.
like, he would dislocate something, break something to
Well, that's
not be
possible.
able to, like swim back. Like, I don't know. It wasn't very realistic to me. And if that's, like, one of the bigger problems I have with the movie, you know.
I don't think it was a death sentence.
Yeah.
I think you could definitely make the case that in real life that kind of thing could be survived.
Yeah. Well, they should have done it practically then. Practical
Maybe that's why
effects.
he goes crazy. Maybe he hit his head a
maybe.
little on the water.
That could be. I wouldn't even say he went crazy. He only went crazy because everyone else called him insane.
He did go a little crazy though. He had so many lines, and I remember I read one reviewer afterward that said that the movie like has the problem of some things being funny when they shouldn't be. But to me, I think they were going for humor with a lot of his lines, and he's going crazy. He's like, "She's from the future," and at one point he's like, "We gotta wait 9 more years, Holt. We gotta wait." Like I was laughing like that. It was pretty funny, the delivery.
Yeah, you would just have to hope that was intentional. It seemed kind of
I think
dramatic,
it was intentional,
but
though.
like also it seemed like extreme, like too extreme.
I think at times this movie knew it was trying to be kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. The director is known to be a horror director.
Speaking of funny lines, there's one line where I swear Michael C. Hall sounds British.
Oh yeah.
It's at an hour, 2 minutes, and 12 seconds into it because I had to mark it because I was just like, oh my god, like listen to it over and over, and he says, "What's that supposed to mean?" I swear he sounds British just for one line, but for a second, like it had me going, like, is Michael C. Hall British? Like, did he just let a British accent slip? And
and he might have been. I mean, I know he's Shakespearean, so he probably let that side of him.
It was weird.
No, I mean, I think we rewound it like 3 or 4 times laughing at that shit because even his next line, he was like straight American again. Like, what's that supposed to mean? You know, last night when this is our 3rd attempt trying to do this podcast, but we wanted to open with that line, and if you haven't seen the movie, you should watch it. It's definitely a very interesting piece of dialogue. It might be the most mind-bending thing of the whole movie.
A lot of the dialogue was good. Some of it was mediocre just throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
When he gets to the lady who gives him the info on the terrorist guy, like his ex-girlfriend, that like old lady who's like, "Where were you 18 years ago?" She's straight up back and forth, like he asked her how into it he was, and she looks at him and is like, "Enough to freak me out." And I was like, "Ooh, that was a good line delivered well."
Yeah.
And right after that, she says, "You heard of drinking the Kool-Aid? She made the Kool-Aid." And I was like, "Oh my god, that's a dumb line!" Like immediately after.
Like yeah.
I didn't like that one. I was like,
that
"That's
was kind of interesting."
I thought it was cheesy.
Oh, definitely cheesy. Yeah.
And then right after, I guess it's not right after that. It's actually a different scene where he checks out the other ex-girlfriend. But when his granddaughter's like above him in the attic, and he hears the footsteps, and she jumps out the window. I liked that scene. That was cool.
Yeah, that was. I was like, who is in there? It's got to be her, and like, how is she gonna get out of it? If I was him, I'd like start shooting the ceiling basically. But and then he fucking got her. Like when she fell out, that's when the hands injury happened. So that was kind of interesting.
Well, and that's the first time he finds her in her little water pod.
In the cave, yeah.
And he's like, "I'll see you real soon."
Yeah, that was cool.
That was pretty good.
Reverse of the line.
Yep. But
and then that's immediately after Michael C. Hall.
I assume after that he probably served a little bit of prison time.
Oh, I would assume, yeah.
Yeah, he might not have. He might have been able to, with his connections, get off somehow. But
well, his connections being Michael C. Hall. Do you think he really?
Well,
he probably had to do some
exactly.
psychiatry.
Oh,
or,
no doubt.
Some kind of like
something, but he might not have to go to jail. But
definitely went to court. I assume for that.
And then the Dr. Naveen shows up again at that
Michael
scene
C.
for the
Hall,
first time
stares
since
at
forever.
Him. I thought
I didn't notice that. But
like Michael C. Hall is just right there, like just looking at him, like while he's on top of the cliff. Like to me that at that point I was like, I thought Michael C. Hall was like maybe in on it, and that never came to fruition.
I never noticed Michael C. Hall looking, but I did think it was weird. I didn't fully understand Dr. Naveen's character. Like he's partnered with the granddaughter, but then like he captures Locke and like tapes him up, which leads to a pretty cool van crash scene with like opera music and dead pigs flying around. But like he tries to kill him straight up, tries to shoot him when he starts escaping. I'm like, dude, like you could be messing up the whole future right now.
That theoretically, because if he was the one to have taught her.
Yeah.
But theoretically, and again, and this is where it comes back to, like, did she succeed or not? Like, and did that erase the need to have to train her? Because I've
That's where none of
like
there's no way to explain it.
It's not explained, yeah. Because if that were the case, and she had already been trained and still went back, even if he had died, she has still been sent back.
I will say too, at one point
killing him would not erase her.
At one point I thought what I thought was a criticism, but then realized it wasn't. But like during one of the motorcycle chase scenes, I was like, "Where?" Like, this bitch has like superpower motorcycle racing skills. She's like jumping ramps and fences and stuff.
Skilled beyond the.
And I was like, this is ridiculous. But then I was like, but like he's already been through all this shit, so he knows exactly what he needs to / will train her to do.
Yeah.
So like he could have just been like, all right, time to focus on motorcycling.
Yeah. And her dad was a serious athlete, you know, like, or not
That's
serious,
true.
but you know, like I think that line right there was like.
All we know is he played football in high school. We really don't know what he did after that.
Oh yeah,
he
that's
gone
true.
Into banking.
I did like, to me that genuinely was a line where I was like, I think I kind of know what's about to go on. Like,
see, I didn't even catch. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention enough at that part at all. But I think he wears his wedding ring throughout too. I thought that was interesting. He never takes that off.
No.
Just.
I don't think he had another love.
It's kind of like Michael C. Hall says to him in the diner. He's like,
"You need to move on.
Your whole life got away from you while you're chasing moonbeams. It's fucking sad."
Yeah, that was pretty harsh.
And
then his like crisscross right after that, he was like, "It's what family does."
Well, it's because he
like felt bad, I guess.
If you've ever dealt with family members, who are kind of losing it, and you're just like you can go very quickly from like, what the like, get your shit together, to like, if you see them breaking down, you're like, look, I'm there for you. Like like that was very realistic, I thought, honestly, and I thought that was a good scene. But he really was a shitty dad. Like, tying into that, like when it shows the 18-year-old daughter in the car and he gives her the bracelet gift.
Yeah, she's like,
in my head, I was like, wow, she is a bitch.
Yeah, I thought that was.
But then I was
rude.
Like, but.
You're
like this dude, she's being raised by her uncle,
right?
And
it's
her dad's
one or
like,
2 times a year they probably see.
And then
each other.
I ended up thinking, like, honestly, like, she's pretty good spirited about this overall. Like, she's treating him better than possibly he deserves to be treated.
And the last
by her.
line was like, no, seriously, like,
she said like, thanks for trying, and lose the beard.
Lose the beard. Like, it was in.
Oh, by the end, I was like, oh, she's pretty mature about this, actually.
Right. I mean, how
like,
would you?
She has
expect
every
a
reason to be very resentful and angry, and she was pretty adult about it overall.
And it was sweet that she wanted him to be there during the birth, and I love that line also kind of like connected some dots. She was like, and we decided we wanted you to be there, and then when the Raya, whatever you pronounce it, was like, you were there the day, you held me the day I was born. I was like, oh, goddamn. I was like, well, like, that comes full circle. That's totally the granddaughter.
In my head, and maybe this is just me being slow, but like within a split second, my brain went from like,
is that the real
it's
daughter?
The daughter?
Yeah.
To, oh shit, no, obviously it's the granddaughter.
For a second, I was like, maybe the daughters had been swapped somehow.
I was really confused
like,
for a minute. And honestly, it was the race thing. That was clever, because I don't know why. You just don't typically, when you're watching movies, like you just don't think like, oh, this it's obviously his granddaughter.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't.
It's kind of a weird. It's a weird way to use the race card, like to.
It's clever
to
Yep.
Not ruin expectations, but
now if they had ever said, if they had mentioned at any point that she was like mixed, half white, half black earlier, I think I would have immediately been like, oh, well,
right,
probably.
And again,
I related.
Again,
I just didn't think related to the main character.
And I hated it. Like, I even mentioned it to you. I was like, as soon as she was like, "Oh, you're still seeing that football player," like, to me, I was like, "Oh man!" Like, for me, I was like, "This could, I don't know, it could come full circle here." I even told you, I was like, "This might come off as super racist," but like,
yeah, that definitely didn't make me I did not have the same train of thought
I thought
as
it
you
was
there,
I
but-
thought it was not a throwaway line, but a purposeful line. And I think that the way that it was played out, like it was, again, very like I don't know, like just kind of it was hinting towards that because they don't show the husband at all until that last scene.
I don't know if that hints at that or not.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying, but yeah, I don't know if that. There's plenty of white dudes playing football in high school
Oh,
too.
for sure. No, for sure.
And Mexicans. And
Oh, and yeah,
Asians.
anyways, yeah. Damn, I'm racist. No. YouTube channel over.
I mean, hey, clearly you were catching on to something.
No, I really, and again,
though.
I even
I
told
mean,
you,
you're
I was
right,
like,
but-
I was like, holy shit! Like to me, in my mind, that like just from like if I read that on paper, it would have seemed purposeful. It's not that that's where I would have gone normally, but it's like that just it didn't seem like a throwaway line. Like it seemed to be like, I don't know. I feel like both the father and the granddaughter were super underused. Mostly the father, because you, again, don't really see him until the birthing scene. You're like, oh shit, he's black. Well, so they have a mixed
Oh, he was
baby.
completely left. Yeah, he was
Good old George.
an inconsequential. Like he didn't do much on screen at all. But yeah, and one weird thing when he that final confrontation on the beach, like I was expecting him to be waiting there for her when she comes out.
Yeah.
But the way they shot it was just one of those stupid, weird things where it's like she comes out of the sewer and she like walks up to the beach, and I was like, oh, he's gonna be like on top of the sewer thing or something. But then it cuts to him and he's like
just sitting
10
chilling.
feet in front of and to the left, like I was like in a position where she would have seen him immediately.
Oh yeah, if she
I was like,
ran
you
for a
didn't have to
while.
have him there.
Right.
Like put him 20 feet back behind the opening of the sewer grate,
standing maybe,
because it just made it like
the fact that he was
it just
sitting,
took me
he
out of it, because I was like, why
stationary.
didn't she see him there? Like it didn't make any sense. But so at the end, there were a number of lines where I was just getting very like back and forth feelings about the way it was going. I will say, as an overall thing, you know how there's multiple versions of what's that movie with Harrison Ford, Blade Runner?
Yeah.
You know how there's one with like a voiceover and one without?
Yes.
I think it's in the beginning
Yeah.
though.
The
I
extended
think
version.
this would have been better with no voiceover at the end, or a much abbreviated version of the voiceover.
The voiceover kind of dragged.
I think it was bad.
Yeah.
It turned what could have been a great ending into a cheesy ending for me.
Yeah.
And here's
I didn't like the reverse shots of the glass unbreaking and all of that. But, you know,
that
going
wasn't
back
great
to,
either.
like,
But it was almost just the dialogue. So there's one part where she says, she's talking about what they've been doing, and she says, like the idea is silencing ideas to kind of make a happier society. And it's kind of arrogant. We already talked about that. But she's like, some thoughts are meant to be buried, some before they even begin. I was like, damn, you sound like the bad guy in a movie right now. Like,
yeah.
that is not...
well,
like,
but
just
then-
go back to that. Like,
Yeah.
But then the thing I did like the most, and I think this alone could have been the entire voiceover at the end, was she says, when the war between us all disappears, it won't make a sound. It won't leave a scar. There will be no great tale in your time, just an echo of what might have been. I liked that a lot. Like,
Yeah.
that was very... like hit well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that should have been the entire voiceover.
Right.
Because then she would, like, like at one point she's like, "This is your story," like talking about, and I was just like, "What?
Yeah. That
Like, what does that even mean?
Especially
How
if
is this
what you
his? It just
did
sounds like a
erase-
generic.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it meant anything. It felt like a generic, like, hey, type up a generic outro for a movie, and it's like, oh, this is your story. You will love and you will heal. Like,
I
it
wonder,
just-
and again, like I wonder if it comes down to because of what she did. I wonder if that future was erased. Like I wonder, will he be the only one who remembers that could have like?
Will he even remember? No, that's where the time travel falls apart again.
Exactly. I mean, he goes to the hospital. He's told to go to the hospital.
And also, I thought, like, who the fuck is she talking to?
Oh, at that point, yeah, because they didn't have that conversation all that long, right? Yeah, yeah.
Like, when
Yeah.
is that?
That's when narration.
Where is that? Who is she
narration
speaking
is
to?
A huge movie sin, like just because it doesn't really.
I don't always have a problem with it. It depends.
No, yeah.
There are times where I think it's great.
But it doesn't make sense. In
Fucking
this
narration
scenario.
opening Fellowship of the Ring, fantastic.
Yeah.
The Galadriel doing Urhol.
But I could see that's
Once That
her
Once
writing
Was is
something
lost.
down. I assume, like not saying you.
The granddaughter, or are you saying in Lord of the Rings?
Gladriel, yeah.
Okay.
Like Gladriel's writing that shit down on ancient text. I assume that's how I took that. Like, or just at least reading what Gandalf had read, that one manuscript where he was like, "Oh, that is the One Ring." This was different because she said the word "you" and she was talking to someone like directly. It didn't.
Well, that's why I took the Galadriel thing as just more classic narration for the audience, but
Right,
it wasn't directed
'cause
at a
it's-
character.
Right.
This
Nar-
was,
narration
but
is
it did make
okay
me-
when it's not directing someone when that timeline wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm. It did make me think when you said that a minute ago. Maybe you could argue she was writing something down, but then have
Nah.
a shot of her writing something down, or
Right.
I just the whole
Because
voiceover
Gladriel
thing
was
kind of killed a
basically
lot for me.
reciting what had been written
Well, yeah,
already
yeah.
in ancient
Mhm.
text.
Well,
Slightly. At least when she did the one.
I never took it as that. I never thought Galadriel was reading or writing anything. I just took it as classic narration. But
I
that's
believe it's-
fine because she's not addressing a character.
In canon, I believe it's what Isildur had written as far as like his knowledge of the ring. That's the manuscripts that Gandalf was
Oh, yeah,
searching
yeah.
for. She was reading what he had read in that moment.
But it still never shows her
No,
reading.
and unless you read the books,
It is still
you
essentially
don't
just
know
a
that.
narration.
Right.
for the
But without
audience.
saying like you or
But again, I don't have a problem with narration.
Right.
I have a problem when it's more of a voiceover of a character talking to another character, but it's like, well, when and where was this conversation?
right, because she already dipped. She was like I got to go do this, and just ran off. And
It just felt like a very generic speech at the end that just didn't fit.
do we know who she kills? Right after that, like what does it show? Who in what year was that? 2016, right? Or
I guess that's when she
2015?
kills the main writer, huh? Because she doesn't do that in '88, right?
I thought she did do it. In
No, it's one of the
88.
last things you see.
I thought he was typing it, and he already had the three prints. Like it shows.
Maybe
him
so, but they
typing
don't
it
show that in
the old
88.
school.
They show that at the very end.
But it doesn't say a time though.
No,
but
it
he's
doesn't.
typing on
It
an
doesn't.
old school typewriter. He's making the manuscript, and you already see the three. Like,
That's true, and
and
they
then
later
that's when
say
it, like-
88, yeah.
so I don't know. Again, like it's not clear.
What was he
It's-
doing, too? Like, when was he stabbed? Is he not concerned about the three...
Right, yeah, the three-pronged, yeah,
Like-
like into your vertebrae, like kind of weird surgery is that? I wonder if she like, and again, like, how does she do it, like, violently, and then these people are just like, oh, well, I guess that happened, and just walk away and go
Well-
off like fry cooking? Does she do it like seductively,
Fry
like?
cooking.
That one guy, like
that was one of
he-
the first
he, like-
scenes where I, like, out loud was like, oh, shit.
Oh, where he
when
pulls
he's...
the-
No, before that, where
No.
he's actually collapsed onto the
Yeah,
burning pan,
that
and
was
his shit's
gross.
just sizzling. I was like,
Mm.
fuck. Like, that is...
I thought that would be
This is
one
definitely rated R, right?
Oh, well, I don't think Netflix does
Ratings, but it would be
NC
if it was...
Yeah, there's honestly not a lot of cursing. I don't think there was like that many like F-bombs. I mean, maybe shit and damn. I really can't recall if they
I
like
bet there were a
threw
couple
some
F-bombs. I
Fs.
can't specifically recall any, but I bet there were a couple.
But
there
when
was
the-
no nudity or sex.
No, but when the violence hits though, like and especially in the first
that
like
can be
10
disturbing.
minutes,
Yeah.
10 15 minutes, I would say like that yeah, I mean it made
Oh,
me very
but
uncomfortable.
the needle thing, we're just saying, that did, in the scene in, I think it is 88, where they go to the club where the girl has been stabbed and is still alive. Why is there not a medic already there examining this girl? Why are they not taking her to a goddamn hospital immediately?
Right.
Like, they know these people died,
Well, they had yeah,
and they know
couldn't
this
prove
bitch has the
anything.
markings.
Because as soon as you say that, and it's again like what Michael C. Hall said, he was like, no one said the word serial killer, like, and that will be thrown out.
But it doesn't matter. They know
Yeah.
that it's the same
They
symptoms.
should, right? They should,
Even if it's
they
just a
should've.
disease.
But that would have caused like chaos when it for a police force for them not to think there needs to be chaos. 'Cause
Wouldn't
they
it
can't
cause
prove it.
more chaos for them to sit there in a room in the club with this girl than to just immediately take her away from the club to a hospital?
Possibly. Oh, so are you asking whether the club owners didn't?
No, I'm saying the police.
Oh, instead of
They're sitting there interrogating this
her,
girl.
yeah.
Not interrogating, that sounds harsh, but they're interviewing
Well,
this girl.
I mean, that's how she took it, though. She literally felt kind of violated.
In some way. But
She
that was
was
just
like,
because she
"Look,
was
I've already told
traumatized.
them."
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
but it's like, why is, like they know that these other people... I guess they
Yeah.
didn't know if it was directly related, but it seems like they knew.
Right. And I think after that one, they were like, okay, fuck this.
Like, they didn't even have a
screw
paramedic
this.
there. Like,
Right.
I don't understand that.
Well, especially, like, first responders should have showed up. Like, if they had enough time, 15 minutes to get to that place, an ambulance could have shown up.
Mhm.
Like, why not call both? Why
Oh.
not have the cop and a ER technician?
To this movie's credit, though, that was one of the few instances, because I was even looking for it in a way, because I almost didn't expect this movie to be that good. I was looking for moments of just like, well, that doesn't quite make sense, but most everything made sense. Like, there were never any moments where I felt like it was unrealistic, really.
Right. Besides some
For the
time travel
majority.
stuff.
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
but
but
I just
I mean, that
overlook that
happens.
for any movie, because
Right,
there's no
yeah.
way to 100% make time travel make sense, because it just doesn't make sense.
unless you're Back to the Future.
Sure.
It's the only way. It's the only way, Marty.
But overall, I'd give it a B+, I think.
Yeah, B plus is where I would stick with it as well.
Almost an A, but it just
Yeah. Shot
feels like there
well.
could have been a tighter movie
Yeah.
in this. Just like one
I don't
more
yeah.
round of editing or something.
Not,
I don't
not
know.
in the way that it drags, but like in the
I didn't think it dragged again. I mean, that could just be a
I think
difference of
certain
opinion, but
dialogue. Well, yeah, editing though.
to
like,
me,
I
it's
mean,
just
how
certain themes didn't fully.
yeah.
They didn't come together at times, and the dialogue, again, the voiceover at the end. Yeah. A few missed marks,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
overall, really good.
Yeah. Solid, very solid. On a good day, great.
Yeah. Much better than I
On
expected
a
it to be.
mediocre day, good.
One of my favorite Netflix original movies, so
Oh yeah. Oh.
I'd
yeah.
recommend it to people.
I liked it a lot.
And I love, we didn't mention the guy earlier, but Boyd Holbrook, the guy from Narcos.
Yeah,
and
the main
Logan.
character.
Yeah. He's also really good. I like him a lot.
Yeah. I did. Yeah.
He wasn't
did a good
necessarily the standout or anything.
No.
I don't even know if there was a standout in this
Mhm.
movie, acting-wise.
I think the idea of it was the standout.
Yeah, exactly. But he did, like, everyone did a good job.
Mhm.
Like, no one was bad.
No. Maybe the screenwriter.
I think I
But
did
even
put at one
then-
point, I love the pacing. I love
Yeah.
some of the way the scenes are put together. I love a lot of the way it tackles thematic and moral issues. But the writing's a little weak at times.
Yeah, no,
That was basically
I wholeheartedly agree with that, and I think that again that causes that a good screenplay will not have, well, it could have bad loopholes or just like plot holes where you're like, what, this doesn't make sense, but this had too many to be like, wow, that was really solid writing, and even some of the dialogue like came off as being cheesy. Not inappropriate, like in a like racy, like vulgar way, but it just like even like I gotta cut back, like 1 pack to 2. Like I don't know, like
I don't know, to me, a lot of those lines seemed. Maybe this is just me giving the movie too much credit, but a lot of the lines seemed purposefully comedic, and I thought they were funny.
And I didn't take it as that way. I did not see I took it as being like dead serious. Again, like this
Nah,
guy,
I thought it was
the
just
director
deadpan
is known
comedy.
for not doing a lot of comedy, but a lot of horror. So I kind of like
Oh yeah, but
took that as, I don't know if that was like
Todd
his
Phillips
influence.
typically does comedy. Does that mean Joker's going to be an all-out comedy?
No,
It doesn't mean
War
anything.
Dogs though, yeah, or whatever. It was
Isn't that a
called.
comedy? Like a dark comedy?
Yeah.
I never saw it.
No, I never saw it either. I heard it was
But-
more of a school. Yeah,
But just because he hasn't done comedy, I guess I'm saying,
Right,
doesn't mean
right.
he won't have
Yeah.
comedy in there.
it's just always the worst when you're not sure if it's supposed to come off as comedic or not. Not that
See, I
this-
just took it as it was supposed to. If it wasn't, then I will
took it
admit
as
the
being-
movie fucked up.
I didn't
but-
think it was cheesy. I just thought it was maybe too serious at certain points. Like, Maybe
Well,
they should have had a little more fun.
That's what I gathered from when I read that review that said they laughed at things that weren't supposed to be laughed at.
Right.
But for me, I interpreted it as like they
Like,
are
you were
supposed to be laughed at.
Yeah.
And I still lean toward that. But I will grant maybe that's not what was intended.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
If it was, though, then
truth
I think
is
it
in
was a
the eye
good
of the
blend
beholder, man.
of taking itself seriously, but not too seriously.
Well, it's it comes down to how you interpret it, as most movies are. You know, like
Just comes down to the lunar cycles.
every 9 years. See if we can get this right at 60. Goodbye, everyone.